Welcome back to Morning Express. It is a State of the Nation discussion. We're discussing now who will make it to President Uhuru Kenyatta's cabinet. He is expected in the next few days to name his list of nominees to the cabinet. There is a speculation that he may just increase the cabinet slots from the current 19 up to 22 slots. But the women have come out to cry foul, accusing the president of failing to meet the two-thirds gender rule in cabinet in his first term, and asking him now to create at least 7 slots for female cabinet secretaries within his cabinet. And I mean, our first two panelists here say, I mean, it is not a matter of, being a woman, so I must be in cabinet. And I do agree with that. But these are 22 positions, and we're asking of the goodwill from the president himself in implementing the two-thirds gender rule. Collins, where do you stand on this?
Where I stand with the Constitution. And I mean, the president, when taking the oath of office, swore to defend the Constitution. So if it's constitutional to have not more than 2/3 of one gender in public office, I mean, it has to start somewhere, and change starts from the top going bottom. So he must lead by example by ensuring that he abides by the Constitution and ensuring that he has met the rule. And just to differ with the argument, and I heard you say it, I mean, we are 45 million Kenyans, and I'm sure they are very competent women. Look, there's a lady, is it Nancy Okinyo, who was recently employed to IMF?
Yes.
I mean, spectacular, her record spoke for herself. So we have brilliant brains. And just to deviate from what their argument, I mean, equally, in the way there's a procedure of an appointment, there's an equal way of, removal of this cabinet secretary. So look, Charity Ngilu was in the land CS. It was found that her ministry had issues of corruption. She was equally removed. She was replaced. So if it comes to service delivery, I think if the president maybe might have gotten it wrong, there is equally a way of, getting it solved or taken care of. And that is my exact also problem with this procedure of vetting cabinet secretary appointees. We find that we are now discussing on the, the importance of NASA being involved in this process. But the process always ends up like a rubber stamping process. I mean, very hard. Only once that when Monica Juma was turned back with her papers, but it is almost unheard of a cabinet secretary appointee being, brought down by the legislature. But this is not to undermine the president's capability of choosing competent Kenyans. And just to weigh in on that debate, I disagree with them. I think they're brilliant women. We have Kenyan, smart women who are up to task. Just maybe having them in the relevant dockets, like, I mean, with all due respect, like Rachel Omamo, I think in the defense, it was a bit challenging for her. Maybe she could have served better in another docket.
All right.
Yes.
So that again brings in the issue of the qualifications of the people holding these different slots. Let's come to you, Oliver. We had less politicians and more technocrats in the previous cabinet, and we're hearing now talk of having more politicians and less technocrats in the next cabinet by the president. What difference would you say was made in service delivery while there were more technocrats within cabinet?
First of all, I think to go back to the question that you have just posed to
Collins,
Mango.
go ahead.
I think the President Uhuru Kenyatta, is the first president since independence to have more women in cabinet. We have not had any other president doing the same. So the first thing we need to do is to applaud him for doing that. And as we ask for more, we need to understand the dynamics that influence the formation of cabinet, notwithstanding that the constitutional requirements of the two-thirds gender rule must be attained. He swore to protect the Constitution. And so I believe he will do it again. He has been leading in that front of being law-abiding and fidelity to the law. So I think this is one area he will do it again, the president.
Well, let's wait and see. Let's wait and see.
Now, to your question on
technocrats, did we see a difference in service delivery in the country with the cabinet being constituted with more technocrats as opposed to having more politicians in it?
First of all, my take has always been it's neither here nor there to say these are technocrats, these are politicians. What we should stress is Kenya men and women of integrity and who have the intellectual capacity to deliver. If he's a politician and he has the capacity, well and good. If he's a technocrat and he has the capacity, well and good. But the question should be, can they deliver? Do they have what it takes to deliver for this country? We have 45 million Kenyans who are qualified to do the job. Most Kenyans can do. So therefore, for us, what we need to see is the service delivery. But to the question of did the technocrats and the politicians deliver, right, I will tell you, Kenyans are more of optics than feeling. They do not, what they want is what they can see. So the politicos in the cabinet will look like they delivered, because when they are launching a project, they know what it takes for it to be seen that it has been launched. A good example is this. We have a cabinet secretary like Judith Wahungu. She has been doing a great job. The problem is she has not publicized it. She expects it to be felt. We have had plastic bans and issues on environmental protection and all this. She has done a lot, but because she's not a politician, or her way of doing things is not in publicizing them, and now you put it to somebody like Matiang'i, Dr. Matiang'i. Matiang'i has done a lot. The mode of delivery has been appreciated by the public. He is a technocrat. Nobody knew him when he was appointed to cabinet, right, but he has done a tremendous job. We have politicians like Honorable Najib Balala. Balala has been leading all the way from the front. He has been leading from the front, literally. We have Eugene Wamalwa. We have seen his steps, the steps he has taken in terms of water and issues of irrigation. So all these people do a tremendous job. So for us to say politicians and technocrats, we are missing the point. Right. The point should be service delivery. But there is another thing we need to know. In the House, we have what we call succession politics. The question we need to ask ourselves is, will technocrats be able to sail through the political waters which will be muddied by succession politics? Right. Right. That is where the greatest question lies. But I think, and I know, the president will be able to give us a wonderful cabinet.
All right. Brian, coming to that succession politics, again, Uhuru's cabinet is very instrumental in his government's delivery, but also in the legacy that he is likely to leave. Is this one pesky issue of succession politics likely to interfere with service delivery for the next 5 years, considering it will largely influence who takes which position?
Okay, when you talk of legacy, I don't know which legacy to be precise you're talking about, because we are in a situation where, as a country, we have a lot of, we are having a lot of turmoils, our own internal disagreements. So the only legacy the president can leave is not for him to rightfully appoint the CS, but for him to be able to sit down with the opposition leader and consolidate this country and as a single umbrella with 45 million Kenyans. That's the only legacy that the president can give us. Now, to your question, I think I've answered it. You know, we have serious issues that we need to deal with. We have serious issues that we need to deal with right now. And allocating slots is just one of them, but not the main one. It's not the major one. You know, so the president, let him exercise his constitutional mandate as the president. Let him nominate the women and the right team for these jobs, because, you know, the state of the nation is at a really bad state. It's at a really bad state. So we need to salvage it, you know. He needs to come out, and even those people he is going to give those slots, we have the Constitution, yes, but we also have needs that have to be taken care of. We have needs. So as much as we are fulfilling the constitutional mandate or demands, we should also take care of the needs of the common mwananchi. I think that is where the buck stops at. To me, the buck stops at the people and not the president. The moment you govern the people well, you lead the people well, and they accept you as the president, that is enough legacy.
All right. And you mentioned, the biggest legacy that he can do is consolidate this country, and that is, having dialogue with the opposition, sitting down with Raila Odinga. There are those who feel, Collins, that as part of that process, at the beginning of that process, then in his cabinet, the president needs to perhaps reach out to several brains within the opposition and include them in his cabinet in terms of moving forward. Is that something perhaps that would open up the road for dialogue within these two parties?
And I think you'd asked that question earlier, I mean, on top of his priorities in terms of choosing the cabinet. And for me, if I was to give my honest opinion, it will be inclusivity. I mean, and I had his speech during his, swearing-in ceremony, and he took charge and said he'll take the lead to, unite this country.
And be the president of all.
Yes, and bring it the president of all. So I think in these 22 names, the maximum, top of his agenda should be inclusivity. And we know we are having a very polarized country, and it's never been worse. We've had a very long political session, and Kenyans were, deeply divided. So this should be top of his agenda. And on the same point, in his appointments, my humble opinion is his appointments should not be on, people from certain regions who also the people of that region don't think or perceive they carry the agenda. They don't feel represented. So in his consideration, he may want to, have this out-of-the-world appointment that, even if he's naming a certain individual from a certain region, people from that region can, identify with themselves with that person, not just, for the purpose of meeting that threshold. And, all factors considered in terms of, development, being able to deliver, that is a very critical point, in my humble opinion, in his next appointment. All
right, I want us to move on from this, but I saw you react to this, Kipchumba, when he brought in the issue of regions, that Kenyans need to be able to identify, with the person, depending on the region that they come from. But we only have a maximum of 22 cabinet positions with 47, different communities to be represented nationally. Is that the face of inclusivity, really?
Michelle, there are two points that have been peddled in this country in the last 2 months, which I think are lies, and they are peddled to fit a certain political agenda and narrative. The first of all is inclusivity. You cannot say that we need somebody who will identify with a certain people. Inclusivity, as enshrined in the Constitution, talks about gender, people with disability, youth, all those groups. We do not have a threshold that we will give Michelle because he identifies well with a certain group.
Right.
And that is the problem we have had. The cabinet as it is now is inclusive enough. It is inclusive as it can get. We have somebody from the Coast region, we have somebody from Luo Nyanza, we have somebody from the Abagusi, we have somebody from each part of this country. Therefore, to say so-and-so must identify with the people, I think is just taking the... We are going back to the democracy we are talking about. Because if we say today, a cabinet secretary so-and-so does not identify with the people, therefore we do not meet the threshold of inclusivity. Does it mean that inclusivity came with names of people who must be in cabinet for it to be inclusive? That is a lie. The other thing which we need to debunk from this place or from this session is this issue of legacy. The cabinet and legacy should not be attached. They are not held together by the hip. For the simple reason that is, Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy began the first time he swore allegiance in 2013. When he was sworn in 2013, that is the moment he began to build his legacy. Up to this moment, his legacy is intact. We have the SGR. We have education reform. The reform in the education sector, those are enough legacy. And then again, he is the president who will be remembered for doing what he has done in devolution. You do not need to name a cabinet for you to see that. And then again, in issues of gender, let me finish. In issues of gender, he will go down history as the first president who had a bigger portion of his cabinet being women. So when we sit here and say that his cabinet and legacy and all this, we have seen the projects he have launched. He have launched in this country. Those are his legacy. Do you expect that we will build another SGR for it to be a legacy?
Right.
That's legacy enough.
see your thoughts on that, because what I hear from Kipchumba is, the president has built his legacy. He's almost achieved the 2/3 gender rule. He's almost done this.
No.
But he's still doing it in his 5-year journey.
As long as you have achieved nothing in a manifesto, you have no legacy. Because you look for a job with a CV. And you tell a company, look, if you give me this job, I'll be able to do 1, 2, or 3. We accept your CV. We give you a job. What do you do? Absolutely nothing. Is that legacy? Hell no. To answer your question on... But
are you trying to say that the president has
no, not at all. I appreciate the much that he has done. He has done, but not to the expectations, of all Kenyans, We have to give credit where due, and that's where I come from. I was brought up and taught to appreciate when it's time to appreciate, So I cannot say that the president has done absolutely nothing. He has tried, and I think I like his sense of humility to some extent, He's this one person who will lie really low so that you can have some sort of dialogue, So I think I have to give him credit where due. But now, my brother here talks of legacies that, to me, are imaginative, When you say that people don't have to be appointed based on where they come from, you have to realize that as a community, the Constitution says the sovereign power of the people can either be represented through their democratically elected leaders, and we have through of course, through the national government, and of course, through the county governments. But still, the president should borrow from that leaf, so that even the people he nominates to certain positions are speaking the language of the people. You cannot coerce a nominee on the throat of people and say, okay, I'm dealing with the Constitution. I'm doing my constitutional mandate by the mere virtue that I've given you someone from your region. No, it doesn't work that way. The people, what good will it do to have a head not connected to a body? These people are heads. They should directly connect to the people, So when he say, I agree to whatever he's saying, but I'm saying when it comes to logic, the president should employ some logic enough so that he studies and see the people he wants to nominate for certain position, look at their weight in terms of the numbers they have. Then, in fact, that will be the first step to bring in this country. I mean, it will be the first.
Yes. I want to win, yes. And, we should start asking why he garnered 7 million out of, the potential 19 million. It means there's a huge number of population who felt that they were not satisfied with the first term. And just as they've pointed out, there's a lot that has been done. But also there are a lot of questions that are being, and we've just discussed about unemployment. And, the elephant in the room is always corruption. And there's this, and I had a discussion elsewhere, and somebody was saying, if you want to see the development, go to the public portal delivery unit. I mean, really? Development are things that you can see physically. So I don't have to, sign in a computer. But this is not to take away the much we've done. I mean, we've seen projects that have worked. Let us talk of the Huduma Center, the NYS project. But the problem is, where there is progress, we are equally met with this dragon called corruption, which it cuts down. But all is not lost. I mean, President Kibaki, in his last term, he did awesome, he did marvelous things. So Uhuru has another 5 years, he has another go at it. And I'm sure one thing that he will not fail to deliver in is on this issue on inclusivity. I'm sure in his next appointments, the CS, PS, the nation will appreciate and will see how he will have this nature of inclusivity. And just to differ with Kipchumba, I usually don't agree with this argument that just check on the qualification, it doesn't matter where you come from. I believe that we have qualified people from all sides of this country. I mean, we have people from Turkana who have studied and have gone far and wide and traveled and have worked in these big areas. So we have equally qualified people from all these communities. So what Kenyans want to see is, at least a sense of belonging. They want to see they own the government. It is a government that is serving them. And let us not forget Article 1, which, the whole power is on the people. So the people need to see good representation and, service delivery. And Kipchumba rightly said it. Kenyans love what they see. And that's why there's some cabinet secretaries who did a lot. And because of, they did not have this PR showcase, people might not have noticed. That is as much as I can say.
That's a good point to end it in, because very briefly, please.
I think when we talk about government, we should not look at government as cabinet. There is cabinet, there are principal secretaries, we have diplomatic missions, and we also have state corporations. When we talk of government, we should look at it from that point. So that is one correction I want to make. The second correction, when we talk about the issue of unemployment and corruption, each country in the world grapples with the two issues. Even United States grapples with unemployment. It is not uniquely Kenyan. So we cannot tie unemployment to Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy.
What about the level?
What
about the level?
Let me just correct your correction. Let me just correct your correction by saying that we have to deal with, when you look at government, we have to look at all arms. But in this particular context, we are very particular to the CS, you know. So don't blow it out and say, okay, look at other functions as well. But basing on the discussions we've had today, basing on unemployment and everything, I think the only thing we need to do as young people right now is to really pull every youth under the sound of my voice right now. We should just pull our intellectual and financial resources together. If we decide that we have a common goal, then we can get there. We can coerce the government to do something for us. Even the devil can do good under the gun. So we can do it.
All right, that's an interesting point to end this conversation on. This is the State of the Nation discussion, and we've been discussing this with my panelists here in studio. Collins Mango is an advocate. We also have Oliver Kipchumba, who's also an advocate, as well as political researcher Brian Oguna. Many thanks for joining us here in studio for this conversation. That is where we end the State of the Nation discussion and take a short break here on Morning Express. Do stay with us. Still more news making headlines to come.